Welcome back to Z to Z. I'm your host, Louis Picasso. We are now at episode 19. If you're a first-time listener to this podcast, we are a franchise podcast that is focused on providing information to Zs by Zs. So let's talk Z to Z. Today, I have a very special guest here on Z to Z. He is the CEO and founder of Unleashed Brands. Their portfolio of brands is the top-rated franchise brands in the country. Snapology, Urban Air, and The Little Gym are all but a few of the top-rated brands he and his team manage. I had the opportunity to speak to Michael, and he provided insight on what makes the Unleashed Brands franchisee successful. So let's take a listen. As I mentioned, I'm excited to have Michael Browning, founder and CEO of Unleashed Brands on Z to Z. Michael, welcome to Z to Z, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure to finally have you. Like I was mentioning before, heard a lot about you. Never had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet you, and it's great to finally talk to you and be able to learn about yourself and about Unleashed Brands.
I'm looking forward to diving in. Let's do it.
Yeah. So for our listeners who don't know about you or Unleashed, tell us about yourself, where you're from, etc., and then tell us how Unleashed Brands came to be and why, and about Unleashed Brands' business model.
Sure. So originally, I started Urban Air Adventure Parks in 2010 is really when I had the vision. And, I was looking to create a place that would help kids celebrate special moments in their life, connect with other kids offline, and escape their everyday, just play. And, I started that, had a lot of success with family-owned units here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And through that success, attracted people who wanted to franchise that business. And so we opened our first franchise in 2014 in Wichita, Kansas, with John Becker, who's still a franchisee of ours today and has 6 Urban Air locations.
Wow.
We cut our teeth with Urban Air, learning how to build systems, processes, procedures, and a team that could support franchisees and really put franchisees in a position to deliver the best customer experience possible, and grew that business, Urban Air business. And then COVID hit, and during the shutdown of COVID, I told the team, I said, I don't believe we've come this far to just come this far. And right. Where there is turmoil, there will be opportunity. So what I wanted them to do is go back and look at all of the systems, processes, procedures, everything we had built over the last 10 years. And let's take a look at it. And when we came up from that exercise, what we realized is that we had built a platform that knows how to sell, design, construct, open, operate, market, and support franchise businesses. We just had to determine what other franchise businesses we wanted to support, and we landed on supporting the enrichment of kids, which was a great extension off of the Urban Air business.
That's great. Now, I did some research, like any good podcast should do. Did some research, and a lot of this really stems from the fact that you had one of your videos that you have kids, and at the time when you shot this video, they were young. I think you had one that was just a toddler, if not at that point. And you kind of wanted to, you didn't have a place for them to go and play and have fun and learn, right?
Yeah, you're so right. As a parent, when we were allowed to come out of our homes from COVID, it was really like a reset for all the families. And we were trying to figure out in our home what we were going to do with our 3 kids. At the time, we had an 8-year-old, then we had a 5-year-old, and then, like you said, we had a toddler. And what I learned as a parent, Googling where to put my kids in, the market was very fragmented. And where there was fragmentation, I saw a consolidation opportunity. And I began to study consolidating platforms like Neighborly and Driven Brands and how they serve the home, how Driven Brands services automotive. And I said, man, nobody has put a platform together that serves the number one asset in a family, the kids.
Right.
Let's do that.
Behind great ideas, great businesses, great business models And it's great that you looked within your own family unit and found an opportunity from from something that you couldn't solve at the time. And during that pandemic, it was a crazy time, obviously. And I have two kids myself, but mine are older. They're 15 and 18. And for example, my oldest daughter, she has been in dance since she was like 3 years old, and still does it today. And so my youngest, my 15-year-old, when she was younger, we had her in different things and dance and everything, and it was just almost like hard and strenuous to find exactly what was fit for her and what was around our values as a family.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that is important when you get your kids involved in something. It's not the activity per se, but it's what that business stands for. And I think that segues into what I believe you guys are, your what you call your three pillars of success. I just added the success part of it there, but learn, grow, and play, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
important. That's important to families.
Yeah, absolutely. We believe no matter a kid's race, origin of birth, religion, every kid needs to learn the basics: science, technology, engineering, math. They need help identifying and growing in their skills and hobbies. And then they need the opportunity to be a kid and just play. Um, and those three pillars are so important. We believe, that every kid has a name. Every name has a story they're writing, and that story is about a journey of a kid trying to reach their destiny. And at Unleash Brands, every destiny matters, and we're trying to just play a small part in the story of that child's development. And trying to make an impact through our fun, engaging, and inspiring experiences.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I could definitely see and not see, but I could definitely hear the passion that you have in the brands that you brought in that are surrounding those three pillars, if you will. And now switching over to the brands, I know that's an important aspect, and that's something that you deal with from the time you get up and the time you go to sleep, right? That's
Yeah.
you probably dream about it too sometimes, about the different brands that you currently have and the ones that you want to have. And one of the things that I really liked about also when it comes to the brand, and you come up to the pillars, the learning, the growing, and the playing, right? But you also have the 9 core values that Unleashed and your brands must follow as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Core values are important. We hire and fire by those core values here as a home office team that gets up every day and supports our franchisees. And we look for those core values, in the franchisees that we award a franchise. And it's important. And for example, we believe that we can have fun and find joy in every situation, and that joy is not found on the mountaintop, but it's found in the journey. We believe that we've got to be synergistic, so we work well with our teammates at the home office, and our franchisees to find a way to help them accomplish their goals and objectives. And really, it's very, very simple. As a franchisor, our job is to build the team, the systems, the processes, and the procedures to put franchisees in a position where they can deliver the best customer experience. And when they deliver a best customer experience, they do two things through Unleash Brands. They make an impact on their community, and they build wealth. And our goal on the wealth side for franchisees is for them to earn cash flow, create cash flow every month for the fruits of their labor, while also building the value of their business so that when they go to sell that business someday, they can sell it for more than they invested in it or they bought it for.
Right.
And that's what we get up every day to do through what we believe is the world's best business model, the franchise model.
Right. And I say this all the time. I've been in franchising, over 20, 25 years. And what I learned is you can train somebody to how to operate a business and how to construct a business and sell, but you really can't train anybody on their values and the personality, right? On I'll just give you a sample of what I'm seeing here is authentic, synergistic, communicative, innovative, gritty, fun, curious. All those things are innate in our DNA. And you learn, a lot of the stuff you learn as you grow as a person, but a lot of them are innate. They're included in your DNA. And it's important to really, as a franchisor, to understand what you're bringing into that particular brand. Because if you don't, and you could please speak on this. If you don't do that, you're in for a world of hurt down the line.
Yeah, it's important because what everyone has to understand is it's a relationship with your franchisees.
Correct.
We as a franchisor are bringing a tried and true business model, and we want innovation, but we need to make sure that innovation is replicatable across the system.
Right.
And we want franchisees to be successful. Because really, at the end of the day, I tell our staff here all the time at the home office, I say, we have no registers here. We make the money that we need to pay our operating expenses at the home office through our relationship with franchisees. And we have to put our franchisees in a position to win. Winning means driving top line revenue, and winning means making sure that a large percentage of the top line revenue drops into profits. And when we do that, then we get paid a royalty. And that royalty is what pays our operating expenses, what pays your salaries. And so you got to get up every day and thinking about those franchisees on the front lines who are delivering the service to the guest.
Correct. And it's important to really streamline and structure that process that way. Because it's not all about the bottom line. I mean, at the end of the day, yes. I mean, we are in this business to be profitable. I mean, that's the end goal. But in order for that to happen, you have to have the processes in place. What does that qualification process look like at Unleashed Brands if a franchisee is wanting to get into one of your brands?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have an 8-step process that we go through, and it's pretty rigorous, right? Again, we do not take for granted that somebody is wanting to sign up for a minimum of the next 10 years of their life with us. And we also don't take for granted that we are looking at someone to carry the torch of the brand in their community. And so it's very, very important. So we have an 8-step process where it starts out with just an overview of goals. This is their opportunity to learn more about us. We want to talk to them about what their vision is for their family, for their future, for their business, understand their why. From there, we do a deep dive into the brands. And it's how does the brand's vision and the brand's goal and the unique value proposition of the brand line up with the individual's desires. We then go there into a request for consideration phase. This is more kind of some of the like confidentiality agreement, stuff like that, where we start really getting into the nuts and bolts and diving in. Then we say, okay, looks like that, our values align, our goals align, you understand the value proposition, we think you can carry the torch for the brand. Let's start looking at your qualifications financially, and is there a territory available for you to steward, for you to run the business in? And then if those two boxes check, and those qualifications financially obviously vary significantly from brand to brand inside of Unleashed, because they're different CapEx models, but from there they move to the reviewing of the franchise disclosure document. Right, we want them. They have to get that. We want them to review that. They need time to review that, and then after they review the franchise disclosure document, and then we have them attend a launch day. So today, for example, I was just in a room with over 40 potential franchisee candidates, where they're here, they're going to be in the brands, hands-on. They're meeting all of the members of the executive team and senior leadership team at Unleashed Brands that supports all of their brands. We share meals with them. I'm having coffee in the morning with them at the hotel in the lobby, and just to get to know them. Because again, this is a relationship that we're going to spend together for the next 10 years.
Correct.
So after launch day, they'll go through a final validation process from a banking perspective. And then they sign the franchise agreement and we're off to the races.
That's great. And really you're creating substance, and ultimately you're creating a relationship. A relationship, as we all know, is not just superficial. It has to have substance in it. And I think that's exactly what you're creating, and a lot of really getting into the substance of it all to create that relationship that ultimately that you want. Um, so, and we talked a little bit about the qualities, the values and the core, but what other qualities do you think that Unleash looks for in someone that's interested in your brands? I mean, is there anything out that we have already not spoken about?
It's funny, absolutely. Like there's a lot, but I'd love to focus on one.
Sure.
We're in the people business, right? All of our brands, they're a service oriented business where mom and dad are the customer, but kids are the users. So you really have two audiences that you need to serve. On top of that, we employ over 20,000 young adults across the franchise locations here in the United States. So we're in the people business. So I always tell them, like, if you don't like people and you can't handle conflict and you can't speak truth, you can't support people, this is not the business for you. Because when you think about it, even on the customer side, we'll have 25 million visits this year to the various franchise locations across the country.
That's great.
Of those 25 million visits, even if we had a 99% customer satisfaction, we'd still be dealing with 250,000 upset customers. Now, we don't want a single upset customer, but as we all know, just law of large numbers, like just stuff happens, we make mistakes. So they have to be willing to admit when they're wrong, make it right with the customer, and not let it ruin their day, their week, or their year. They got to be able to rebound in a people business and continue to carry the torch and make an impact in their community. So love for people is so, so important.
Yeah. And that comes across the board, in anything and in everything you do. We can't do business. We can't do anything without that communicating with another person, without engaging with another person. How do you filter out those non-qualified Z's that can't make the cut? What does that process look like?
It isn't a one single thing that would cause us to. I mean, other than maybe a background check, like you didn't pass the background check, like that's a pretty clear
Yeah,
cut.
right.
But it's a combination of various things. And at Unleash Brands, our chief growth officer, Josh Wall, who's one of the best in the business, gets the feedback from everyone who has or is going to be interacting with that franchisee over the next 10 years. And so there's a scorecard process where we score them on core values, we score them on our experience with them at launch day. And so there's a mathematical process that allows us to take a bunch of variables that we think drive franchisee success and quantifiably score them, so that it makes it a little easier to understand if this person would be the right fit for us or if we'd be the right fit for them. Because again, just because someone isn't awarded a franchise doesn't mean they did something wrong or they weren't the right fit. It could have been something along the line, we're not the right fit.
Right.
And that's how we really look at it. We are honored to have a room full of over 40 people right now who have they wouldn't even be allowed in the room if they weren't financially qualified and hadn't had success in a prior business venture or corporate job, right? So to have that type of qualified candidate in the room is an honor, and we don't take that lightly. And so we put in a lot of effort to get to know them and make sure this is right for both sides.
Right, exactly. And now that you have the 40 people in front of you, they're in your office, they're kind of talking to your organizational staff. And so talking about your organization, your structure, how is that structure set up to support these new Z's? In this case, these 40 Z's that are coming through. How do you support that?
Yeah, great question. So I've always taken the approach, and this has come from people who have been mentors in my life, that we've got to have departments or divisions in the organization. One department focuses on new franchise sales, and then mutually exclusive departments focus on franchisee operations and support. And it's important to maintain a ratio of support. So, for example, we have one home office support staff member for every 5 franchisees in our portfolio, whereas industry standard is around one home office employee to every 25 franchisees. So we really, really emphasize support. So we have FranDev, right, which their job is to sell the franchise and get that franchisee open, all the way to grand opening. Then there's a handoff to our operations team, our compliance team, marketing, who get up every day thinking about how to support the existing franchisees and make them successful. And if we never sold another franchise again, this particular team isn't even compensated based on that. And so they get up every day caring about supporting franchisees by building those processes, those systems, those procedures, and the team to help franchisees win.
That is key. What is the purpose of a new Z coming in, and a lot of them have never been owners. Owners. They've probably been executives, high ranking executives at their careers, and they've been at this for 20 plus odd years. And now they're switching the chapter, turning that page into now becoming a franchisee within the system. And the beauty of that is they're not creating the widget, right? They're coming into a business that they're being supported 100%, and they want to know, and that is what they're buying into. Yeah, they have to love what they do and what that brand is doing, whatever that brand may be. But at the end of the day, is what they're depending on is that support. And that support has to be key, and that support has to be structured properly so that you don't have to have continuous problems down the line with Z's being, having that disconnect, right? How are you preventing that? What do you do to help close that gap?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it all comes down to, in my opinion, franchisee engagement and input. And so you've got to put the infrastructure in place that allows franchisees to be engaged with the home office, with the team. And so the way that we do that is we set up peer elected franchise advisory councils. So they meet quarterly and they provide strategic input to the home office, and they help us prioritize areas of focus that are important to the franchisees that elected them to the council. So that's one. I think it's very, very important. So an FAC. Number 2, creating subcommittees. So these subcommittees have a franchise advisory council member on it, along with a senior leadership team member from the home office, and then any support staff that's needed. These subcommittees, they meet monthly and they dive into key business areas of the business, such as product and curriculum, technology, sales and operations, retention, engagement, marketing, finance, and accounting. So this is like really where the rubber meets the road. So in the tech subcommittee, they'll talk about, hey, we need to change the makeup class feature, or for some reason, we need to change the self check-in module, and that really where the rubber meets the road. So you have FAC and subcommittees. From there, we also host monthly system-wide meetings. So this is where you're giving them a review of the month, you're casting vision for the next month, you're giving them a heads up around, has spring break shifted, what are some things to be looking for, macro trends. And then between the system-wide meetings, you have bi-weekly newsletters. And then at Unleash Brands, because we are multi-brand, and a lot of our franchisees, like 8% of them, have more than one brand, and 57% of them have more than one location. We host quarterly all franchisee, all brand town halls. So then the final thing is you've got to put a system in place to be able to track their needs and support. So we use a ticketing system called Zendesk that allows us to track their requests and identify hot button areas where we need to deploy or improve systems, procedures, or hire additional team. So that's kind of like multiple legs to the franchisee engagement stool and how we do it.
I mean, that's very impressive that you have all these systems in place to support and really identify where there's gaps in the system or potential gaps in the system, right? And you want to be able to cover those as quickly as you can because, at the end of the day, we talked about this, or you talked about this earlier, is at the end of the day, you want these franchisees to be successful and profitable. That is the bottom line. That is why they chose the brands that they chose. That is why they went to Unleashed from the first place. And that is the ultimate core, because at the end of the day, you want to leave, you as a founder CEO and them as the franchisees want to leave a legacy. We all want to leave a legacy. What would be the best advice that you have to a new Z coming into franchising so they can be a great Z? What advice would you give?
The first thing I would say is follow the system. There is a recipe for success that a franchisor should be educating you on. And it's very important to first follow that recipe, get your reps in, get some success before you try to innovate or change anything. And because I always use this metaphor, when we were all in middle school learning algebra, you can only solve for one variable in the algebraic equation. So very similar in franchising. If you start introducing new variables, too many new variables in the recipe, you cannot determine what is making you successful or what is making you unsuccessful. And so too many times we will see that franchisees, whether it's in our brands or other brands that we hear about, they don't follow the recipe, or they try to boil the ocean by changing too much too fast, and then they can't figure out really what's driving it. So I think that's first and foremost right out of the gate. And then, for me, it's always you just got to love the journey. We try to tell people that problems are just mile markers on the road to our destiny, and that there's no such thing as 2 good consecutive days in a leader's life. And so if you're always prepared to deal with a mile marker on your journey, then you don't get too rattled when something pops up, and there's always a solution. And being a part of franchising allows you to tap in and talk to the home office or talk to other franchisees who have dealt with your same customer issue, system issue, whatever it may be. And then the third thing I would say is be engaged with your franchisor. Franchisors need franchisees' input. We want to hear from franchisees, and we want to connect with them. That's why at Unleash Brands, we try to own and operate corporately every brand that we have in the portfolio so that we can talk to franchisees on an equal level and say, I hear you. We're having that same problem at our corporate units, or yeah, that does work great. We tried that too. Let's put that into the ops manual and roll it out. So engagement is so important, and it makes the relationship so strong.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that it is. This is a journey. Franchising and getting into it, whether or not you're starting your own business from scratch or you're going into a franchise. In this case, it is a journey. And Michael, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for being on the show.
It's been an honor. Thanks for having me, and look forward to connecting more in the future.
Michael, me too. I appreciate that very much. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you again. Thank you for being on Z2Z.com. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too. Take care.
Thank you, Michael, for providing great insight into what makes a franchisor and his franchisee successful. It was great to speak to Michael, and I'm sure we'll have him back on the show. As always, you can listen to Z to Z on Spotify or on your favorite podcast platform. And please remember to always like, subscribe, and download Z to Z. As always, I like to end the podcast with a favorite quote. You don't build a business, you build people. Then people build the business. Zig Ziglar. Thank you for your continued support. Until next time.